Well, thank you for joining us today. Can you introduce yourself and a little bit about why you're seeking election?
My name is Carmen Quinones, and one of the reasons that I'm seeking election, especially for being a judge, for becoming a judge, is because I've had over 30 years experience as an attorney. And prior to that, I worked for about 7 years at the Virginia Department of Corrections. And with all the experience that I've had, I've worked my way up to actually representing children, to being able to give my recommendations. The courts, I am the eyes and ears of the court. I give the judges the recommendations. And when you represent children, because now I'm mainly in family law. I mean, in the beginning, I did some criminal cases, I did some murders, but then I graduated. I guess that's where, if I can use the word God put me, okay, was working with families and with children. And the judges turned to me for recommendations. I do not recall a time when a judge has not accepted one of my recommendations. And when you represent children, you are looking both at the properties that are being divided, because that affects the kids. You're looking at the entire family. You want to help the parents, the grandparents, the extended family. You want them to remain a family after they've been divorced, because in that way, they all take care of each other. And I cannot emphasize that enough. If all of us could do that, we would not have a criminal division, because we would have families taking care of families and taking care of their neighbors. And that's one of the reasons I want to be a judge, because I've had that experience already in representing children. I want to make sure that that experience can affect a lot more than just the client sitting at my desk.
But thank you for sharing that. My next question for you is, what have been some of your career accomplishments over your, I think you said 30 years?
Um, I would even start. I'm not one to just pat myself on the back or anything like that. Just so you know, I do have some humility. But even prior to that, when I was in the Department of Corrections in Virginia, before I ever even wanted to be an attorney, um, I remembered that I was able to get the first grant that the Department of Corrections had ever received. And with that grant, I was able to develop a treatment program, a rehabilitation treatment program for the prisoners that was compassionate, that was humane, that they actually had fun with, okay? And it helped them to grow in prison life, not to stagnate. Um, and from there is when I really wanted to go into the law, okay? And when I started law school and I saw the law in writing, I cannot emphasize to you how much I love the law. It is fair, it is just. I get concerned about some of the people that apply it, but the law in and of itself is phenomenal. And in terms of what have I accomplished as an attorney, I have received many awards. Just a couple of years ago, I received one of the high honors in the Domestic Relations Division from the presiding judge. Prior to that, I received awards for work that I have done pro bono in the community, helping people who needed our help but weren't able to afford attorneys. And I also would represent children that are out of state. I also have done some appeals. The first appeal that I did, I was quite a young lawyer. And when the judges came in to vote, it was unanimous. And that had to do with domestic violence. And I feel that was really quite an accomplishment for me at that age. I look back wondering, wow, I actually did that. Um, and, another accomplishment that I would have to say is that I am not just, and I bring up the thing about being a child representative, attorney for the children, et cetera. But one of the other accomplishments that I've done is that in the last 32 years that I have done this and have received all of those awards, I have still been able to grow a business to the point where I am probably one of the best known, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the best known attorneys in domestic relations, especially when it comes to families and children. Someone, as a matter of fact, my name had been brought up in this crowd, and somebody says, Quinones, she's a household name. I'm glad I touch people's lives.
My next question for you is, if you are elected, what are some things that you would like to accomplish as judge?
I would like to be able to, in terms of accomplishment, I would like to make the system smoother, okay, faster and more fair. I would like to be able, it doesn't take 3 years or 4 years for people to be before the same judge, before the same courtroom, and all of a sudden they're heard. We need to be able to hear them from the beginning. And if I could accomplish that and have that effect on the other courts and on the other judges, that in itself would change the system. We need to look at the people inside them. We need to listen to the people. And we need to realize that no matter what the person's background is, they all have the same needs. I have lived very poorly, and I am now living on the North Shore. To give you an idea, I was the youngest of 10. And if I could be in the courtroom and be able to bring all of that in and be able to influence other judges and other courtrooms and streamline the system, yet have compassion and listen to the people in front of you and do it quickly. No one likes to be in the courtroom. No one. Let's get them through right away, and let's get them through fairly. If I can accomplish that just in my own courtroom and affect other courtrooms, I would give myself a badge of honor.
Thank you for sharing that. My next question for you is, what are some of the pressing issues that we face locally that you believe that you could kind of influence as a judge?
And especially when you say locally, because when we look at our state and the city and the suburbs, to me, one of the things that we need to really concentrate on, I know everyone has said it, and I hope everyone that has said it has meant it, is the issue of diversity. We need to look at that. And the more I have looked at it, just myself being a minority, being a woman, and being of color, and coming from the background that if we could look at the diversity in our population, and I'm talking about not just color, not just background, but also age. Let's look at the older people that we have and what they have to give us. We're so concerned that the older people are taking up resources. On the contrary, more people are living with their grandparents today because of the economy, because they don't have the money. We have to look at the elderly also as a group that is part of the diversity in our, in our system, in our country, for that matter. And I think the other issue that we need to look at is how people are being treated, not, I hate to bring this up, but treated by the police officers, but also we need to look at the police that are doing a good job and be able to use them, utilize them, take them and put them in other areas so that they can model that behavior for others. And we also need to look at the prison system. And maybe I'm too outspoken, but the prison system should be able to reflect the community. And when you have a prison system that is not reflecting the community, there's something that is out of balance there. And we need to be able to address that. I think those issues are extremely important. In Chicago, in the state of Illinois, I mean, we have farms all the way out there, and we have the cities in here. We've got to be able to address all of those issues because Chicago has all of those issues.
My next question for you is, would you describe yourself as a passionate public servant? And if so, why?
Sometimes maybe too passionate. And it's just so simple. Why? I love people. And I really love people. It doesn't matter if they're tall, if they're small, if they're young, if they're old, if they're babies, because they're people too. And nothing, gives us more of a reward. And I mean this seriously. Nothing rewards us more than when we give. We don't have to need any, we don't have to have anything given back. Giving in and of itself, okay, is my reward. And in terms of compassion, and I don't think it's because of my being of color, because I know that we're seeing as more compassionate and more passionate. But I've also had bar associations who have described me in writing as someone who is highly intelligent and very compassionate. And I know that. I also know that that's why I'm probably one of the best known domestic relations attorney, because I care for families. I care for kids. I can't emphasize it enough that people can get divorced and people can fight and still love each other and still care for each other. I know that because I've been able to do that. And if I can share that compassion with them, what, I mean, how could I say I'm not compassionate? Sometimes I have to hold myself back. I really do, to not go in there and meddle because I want to help.
And then my last question for you is, what would you like your legacy to be?
I would like that when wow, my legacy, I would like for people to know that I was able to prove, okay, that there is one truth, there is honesty, there is transparency. We are capable of that. We don't need to lie to be who we are or to get ahead or to have any rewards. If I could leave the legacy of honesty and fairness, okay, as a trait that anyone can have, no matter where they came from, that would make it for me. Knowing that, I came from such a poor background. I mean, like I said, I was the youngest of 10 from such a poor background. And just being able to be an attorney was enough. To know that I can do all that and I could do it honestly and I could do it with love and compassion, that you can reach those heights. That's the kind of legacy I'd like to leave. The legacy that, yes, we can be honest, truthful, and compassionate and still be able to soar.
Well, thank you.